Today, we're going to really dive deep into a topic that I think is super relevant for a lot of our listeners, and that's midlife wellness with a specific focus on those hormonal changes that women go through.
Yeah.
It can be a lot.
Yeah.
And we've got this awesome article that we're using as our jumping off point. It's called Unlocking the Secrets of Midlife Wellness. Conquer hormonal changes like a pro.
Interesting.
Yeah, and we're gonna pull out all those key insights. The stuff that's really gonna make a difference for you, like practically how to deal with this stuff, and hopefully give you a lot more confidence about going through this whole transition.
Absolutely. I think knowledge is power, right?
Totally.
And that's what we're here to do is arm you with that knowledge so that you can feel more empowered and confident.
Okay, so let's just jump right in because there's a lot to cover. And I know a lot of you out there are probably like, okay, I'm in my 40s or 50s. Things are starting to feel a little different. You know what's going on. The article talks about these different phases, and it starts with perimenopause.
Yeah.
Which...
it's funny because I think a lot of people think of menopause as this like one day it hits you kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
But really it's this gradual process. And perimenopause is kind of the starting point of that.
Right. It's like the lead up.
Exactly. And it can actually start earlier than you might think, sometimes even in your late 30s or early 40s.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. And the real like hallmark of perimenopause is that your estrogen levels start to fluctuate.
Makes sense.
So, they're not just steadily declining.
Wow.
It's kind of like up and down, up and down.
It's like a roller coaster.
It is a hormonal roller coaster, and that can lead to a whole bunch of symptoms.
Okay, like what kind of things?
Well, I think the one that everybody knows about is the hot flashes,
Uh-huh.
right? Like suddenly you're just like, whoa, it's hot in here.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah. And then it passes, and it's like nothing happened.
Yeah.
But then there are other things, too, like irregular periods. So, your cycle might be shorter, it might be longer, it might be heavier, it might be lighter. It's just all over the place.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. And then even things like brain fog,
Oh,
that
yeah.
feeling of like, wait, what was I just doing? Or where did I put my keys?
Forgetting words.
Yes, exactly. It's like your memory is just not quite as sharp as it used to be. And that can be really frustrating.
Totally.
But it's all tied back to those fluctuating estrogen levels.
Okay, so basically anything weird that starts happening around that time could be perimenopause.
Could be. Yeah, it's worth having a conversation with your doctor.
Definitely.
If you're experiencing any of those things.
Okay, so then we move into actual menopause, which the article gives a very specific definition of.
Yes, it's not just like, oh, I think I'm in menopause now.
Right.
There's an actual clinical definition, and it's when you've gone 12 consecutive months without a period.
Okay.
So a full year with no menstrual cycle at all.
And so how old are women usually when that happens?
Typically, it's between the late 40s and early 50s.
Yeah.
But of course, there's a lot of variation.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Some women might go through it earlier, some might go through it later.
Everyone's different.
Everybody's different, exactly.
So once you hit that 12-month mark, then you're in
Post-menopause.
post-menopause.
Yeah.
Okay, and I mean, did the symptoms just like magically disappear at that point?
I wish.
Yeah.
I mean, for some women, they do, they sail through menopause with very few symptoms, and then they're done.
Lucky them.
But for a lot of women, some of those symptoms, especially things like hot flashes and maybe some sleep disturbances, can linger for a while.
Okay.
But the good news is that in postmenopause, with the right strategies and a good understanding of what's happening in your body, those symptoms can often be managed more effectively.
Right, because you're kind of on the other side of that hormonal roller coaster.
Exactly.
We're starting to level out a little bit. Okay, so we've got these like 3 phases, right? Perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause.
Right.
The article also brings in some like big names in women's health to kind of give their perspective.
Yeah.
So there's Dr. Christiane Northrup, who...
I love her.
Yeah, she's great.
She has such a positive outlook on menopause.
Right. She doesn't see it as this like negative thing.
No, she sees it as a time of rebirth.
Okay, I like that.
Right. It's like this opportunity to kind of reinvent yourself, to connect with your inner strength, and to embrace this new chapter in your life.
I love that.
And I think that's such a powerful message because it really shifts the focus away from just managing symptoms to like really embracing this new phase.
Yeah, totally.
And then there's Dr. Louise Newson,
Uh-huh.
who is a huge advocate for education.
Makes sense.
She believes that women need to be armed with knowledge about what's happening in their bodies so that they can make informed decisions about their health.
Absolutely.
And she really emphasizes that understanding is the first step to feeling more in control.
Right, because when you know what's going on, you're not just like freaking out.
Exactly. You're not just like, what is happening to me?
Right.
You can be like, okay, this is normal. This is what's going on, and this is what I can do about it.
Exactly. So the more you know, the less scary it is.
Absolutely.
So, beyond just understanding those phases and those expert perspectives, the article also includes some really interesting, kind of quirky facts about menopause. Did you catch the one about how the average age of menopause can actually differ around the world?
Yeah, that was fascinating.
What was it?
So apparently, women in Japan, on average, tend to experience menopause a little bit later in life compared to women in Western countries.
Interesting.
And it really makes you wonder why that is.
Right. Like what's different about their lifestyle or their environment or something?
And the article actually suggests that it might be related to diet.
Oh, okay.
So the traditional Japanese diet is very high in soy products,
Right.
and soy contains phytoestrogens.
You've heard of those.
Yeah, they're basically plant compounds that have a similar structure to estrogen,
Okay.
and they can actually bind to estrogen receptors in the body, so they can kind of have a mild estrogenic effect.
Interesting.
So the thinking is that maybe this higher intake of phytoestrogens from soy could be influencing the timing of menopause in Japanese women.
It makes you wonder if there are other things in our diet that could be affecting our hormones too.
Right, and that ties into another one of the quirky facts that they mentioned, which is about the link between diet and how common certain menopause symptoms are.
Oh yeah, what was that?
So they were saying that in countries where the diet is typically low in processed foods and high in natural fibers.
So like a more whole foods, plant-based kind of diet?
Exactly.
Okay.
That women in those countries tend to report fewer menopause symptoms, especially things like hot flashes.
Really?
Yeah, it suggests that what we eat can really have a big impact on how our bodies go through this transition.
So maybe it's not just about our hormones, it's about how we support our bodies during this time.
I think that's a really important takeaway.
Okay, so we've covered the phases, we've heard from some experts, and we've looked at these interesting global variations. Now, let's get into the practical advice. What does the article suggest as actual tips for navigating these hormonal changes?
Okay, let's do it.
Their first tip is all about staying informed,
Yeah,
which makes sense. Knowledge is power.
it is. And this is an area where things are constantly evolving.
Right.
There's new research coming out all the time. There are new treatments becoming available.
So how do we stay on top of that?
Well, the article really emphasizes the importance of consulting with healthcare professionals who specialize in midlife wellness.
Okay.
So, not just your general practitioner, but someone who really focuses on this area of women's health.
Like a specialist.
Exactly. And by staying updated on the latest research and the different treatment options that are available, you're really empowering yourself to make the best choices for your individual needs.
It's about being your own advocate.
Totally. And don't be afraid to ask questions. You know,
Oh, yeah, definitely.
if you're not comfortable with something or you want more information, speak up.
Absolutely. All right, so staying informed is key. What's next?
Okay, well, this one is something that we always hear about for overall well-being, but it takes on even more importance during midlife,
Mm.
and that's nutrition.
Oh, yeah, food.
Food, exactly. And
Yeah.
the article really advocates for a balanced diet that's focused on whole, unprocessed foods.
Okay, so like cutting back on the junk food.
Exactly. You want to prioritize things like fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean protein sources, healthy fats.
It's all about giving your body the nutrients it needs to thrive.
Right. And remember we were talking about phytoestrogens
Mhm.
earlier. Well, the article specifically suggests considering incorporating foods like flax seeds and soy into your diet
Makes sense.
because those phytoestrogens might be able to help support your hormone balance as your body's going through these changes.
So it's like a natural way to kind of give your hormones a little boost.
Potentially. Yeah, it's worth experimenting with and seeing how you feel.
Definitely. All right. So food is super important. And of course, we can't talk about wellness without talking about exercise.
Right, movement is medicine.
It really is. And the article really emphasizes how important regular physical activity is during midlife.
Yeah, aiming for at least 30 minutes of moderate exercise most days of the week.
That's not too bad.
No, it's achievable and the benefits are huge.
Like what kind of benefits?
Well, for one thing, it can help with weight management, which can be a challenge during menopause because your metabolism can slow down.
Right.
But beyond that, exercise is a mood booster. It can really help to improve sleep quality, which we know can be disrupted during this time. And it's just good for your overall physical and mental health.
It's like a win-win-win.
Totally.
All right. So we've got stay informed, we've got nutrition, we've got exercise. What else is there?
Well, the next tip is all about taking care of your mental and emotional well-being.
Okay.
And the article specifically highlights the benefits of mindfulness and meditation practices.
I'm a big fan of those.
Yeah, me too. And they can be so helpful during this time because they can help to reduce stress.
Which we all know can make everything worse.
Exactly. And stress can actually exacerbate menopause symptoms.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so by incorporating practices like yoga, meditation, even just some deep breathing exercises into your routine, you can really help to manage your stress levels and improve your overall emotional state.
It's like giving your mind a break.
Yeah, and it's about cultivating that sense of inner peace and balance, which can be so important when everything else feels like it's in flux.
Right, because your hormones might be going crazy, but you can still have that inner calm.
Exactly.
All right, so we've got mindfulness and meditation as tools in our toolkit. What's the last tip?
Well, this one is all about knowing when it's time to seek professional help.
Okay.
Sometimes lifestyle changes and those basic things that we've talked about are enough, but sometimes you need a little extra support.
Sure.
And the article really encourages women to seek guidance from a menopause specialist if they're struggling, because these are healthcare professionals who have really in-depth knowledge about the hormonal changes and the health concerns
Yeah.
that are specific to this stage of life.
So they can offer more targeted advice.
Exactly. And they have access to a wider range of treatment options that might not be available from your general practitioner.
Okay, so it's like taking it to the next level.
Right. And they can really help you to create a personalized plan to manage your symptoms and improve your quality of life.
Great. So those are some really solid, actionable tips. I think everyone listening can take something away from that.
I hope so.
The article also ventures into some slightly more unconventional territory
Yeah, a little outside the box.
with a couple of additional suggestions. So let's talk about those. Did you see the one about acupuncture?
Yeah, that's an interesting one.
I know I've heard people say that it's helped them with menopause symptoms.
Yeah, and the traditional understanding behind acupuncture is that it can help to improve circulation and rebalance the flow of energy in the body. And that can potentially alleviate some of the symptoms, like hot flashes and sleep disturbances.
Interesting.
Now, the scientific research on acupuncture for menopause is still kind of emerging,
Right.
but a lot of women do report finding it helpful.
Mm.
So it's definitely something to consider if you're open to trying alternative therapies.
And it's not invasive or anything?
No, it's pretty gentle.
All right. And then the other unconventional tip that they mentioned was cold showers.
Yeah, that one's a bit surprising.
I know, right? Like, who wants to take a cold shower?
But the thinking behind it is that sudden exposure to cold can help to regulate your body temperature.
Okay.
And that might help to reduce the frequency and intensity of hot flashes.
So it's like shocking your system a little bit.
In a way, yeah. And it's definitely a low-cost option.
That's true.
But yeah, it might not be for everyone.
I can imagine.
But if you're willing to give it a try, it could be worth experimenting with.
So we've covered a lot of ground here today. We've talked about the different phases of menopause. We've heard from some leading experts. We've looked at some interesting global variations. And we've explored a bunch of practical tips, both conventional and unconventional. So as we wrap things up, what would you say is the key takeaway from this deep dive into midlife hormonal wellness?
I think the biggest takeaway is that this is a journey.
Yeah.
It's not something to be feared or dreaded. It's something to be embraced.
Right.
It's a time of transition and change, but it's also a time of growth and empowerment.
Okay. I like that.
And by arming yourself with knowledge, by taking care of your physical and emotional health, and by seeking support when you need it, you can navigate this phase of life with confidence and grace.
You can come out the other side even stronger.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. I really hope this has been helpful for everyone listening. And remember, you're not alone in this. So many women go through this, and by understanding what's happening and having these tools in your toolkit, you can really make this transition a positive one.
Yeah, and as you're reflecting on everything we talked about today, I think it's also worth considering how our cultural norms and our dietary choices can influence our individual experiences with menopause.
That's a good point.
We talked about soy in the Japanese diet, but there are so many other factors that could be at play.
It's like a whole other layer to explore.
Exactly. And it might lead you to some really personalized insights about what works best for you.
That's a great thought to leave everyone with. And for those of you who are interested in exploring that link between nutrition and midlife health even further, be sure to tune in next time, because that's exactly what we're going to be diving into.
Can't wait.
All right, until then, take good care of yourselves.
See you next time.
Bye.